And so that's how Barry got the opportunity to pull it together. And several people helped him, as he will speak about. But we are also here to tell him that he helped several people along the way. Me included. My career took off from sales into management, into marketing, into government affairs, starting with Barry Washington's opportunity to allow me to work with students. Working the streets of Newark taught me so many things. I have so many stories. I have encyclopedias that you do. But it taught me to be humble. It taught me to be street smart. So I graduated in the streets of Newark with a PhD. Still learning, still humble. But I know a thing or two about every street, every neighborhood. I was protected by unsavory characters because I was the cable guy. I was protected by children because I always gave them candy and gave them little HBO stuff to get the intel about who on the block was coming in when. Because you see, I had to sell cable. I had to keep my job. I had to feed my family. And it was commission only, Barry. No salary, no benefit. We had to work a numbers game. You had to knock on so many doors in order to convert it into so many promises, in order to convert it into so many sales. You had to bring in that. Oh, those days we would be walking around with cash in our pockets because most folks didn't have checks. We'd be rolling in that office at 10 o'clock at night, maybe with $400 or $500. Never got mugged, never got held, never got harmed. No. I learned how important it was to be a cable guy in the streets. You had a rep, big rep. So much so I remember then me and Rafi Mohammed, another salesperson, out on the street on Goldsmith Avenue, never forget it. Winter storm coming. They say everybody should go. Rafi and I said, oh no. This street just got turned on. There's some people out there waiting to sign up. We're going on Goldsmith Avenue. Well, we went out in Rafi's car, left mine at then. We went out there at 2 o'clock that afternoon. I got to tell you, we didn't leave Goldsmith Avenue until the next day. Snowed in. Big winter storm. Elderly lady looked at us and said, y'all need to come in. You can stay over. A lot of times, we write people off for a lot of reasons. We learned in the streets of Newark, don't write anybody off. Don't write them off because of how they look. Don't write them off because of how they live. Don't write them off because of what little they have. Don't write them off. We could have frozen on Goldsmith Avenue, hustling, chasing those hot sales because it just got turned on. And we did exceptionally well that day and the next morning when we got up and shoveled people up. And they said, you the cable guy. And they would sign you up, sir. I think we must have cleared easily north of 12 to 15 sales between those 2 days. And Rafi was just a happy man. He said, see, Don, I told you. I said, yeah, Rafi. In the meantime, you know, we could have not hurt. No, man, forget it. We're in the city of Newark. That's what it was like. And so I want to just call on a few people to stand up and say a few words before Barry gets started with his. Marvin Cratch, who was also a salesperson with me, streets of Newark. Actually, I believe I hired him and I was his supervisor or something like that.
Oh, you got to go. See, when I met Don used to have a big curly. I wear so much. Look at him that. What Don said was great because Barry, you were an inspiration to a lot of inner city kids. You taught me to mind my own business. You know, when you used to say that, I used to get insulted, but it was right. You need to take pride and take ownership of your position when you're in the city of Newark. I went from a kid making $100 a week. Remember, I used to fuss. 9 months in a row, I never made less than $3,000 a week out in the city of Newark. A young man, I built my own business by working through your business. I now run businesses, my own streaming network and everything else because you inspired me. And just like what you did for me, I now inspire others, not just in this country, but in other countries. I travel to Egypt, I travel to Africa, I do certain things helping people. I stay in touch with you because you know what? I'm always feeding off of you. He calls me weekly. I'm a pastor, I'm an apostle of a Church Without Walls Worldwide Ministries. And I teach the same philosophy that you taught me. You know, don't judge people. Like Don said, don't look at a person for what they don't have. Look at for what you can offer them. Look at what you can bring them. I remember my man back there at Tech. I was just telling Don, we used to give him so much more. He used to get mad at us because we used to give him a lot of things that wasn't right. At one time, we used to run out there and sign people up just because we wanted the money. And knowing that they couldn't get this cable in that area because it didn't have the things up top. But the brother he was talking about, Rafi Mohammed, told me one day, he said, listen, you can keep beating yourself in the head or you can listen to what I'm going to say. You see those right there, they can have it. Those there can't. From that day on, I never, ever had a problem with cable anymore. But the thing is, you got to be duplicatable. I can take a team out. If they can't do like I do, it's just a defeated effort. See, TEAM means together, everyone achieves more. And as a team, that's what you got to do. You got to stop thinking teamwork makes the dream work. Yes, but together, as you said in the beginning, unity is what we must do. If we unify ourselves, you created something in Newark that I didn't think that they expected to be what you expected. You took Central Cadillac and turned it into a connection cable. You took Central Cadillac building and no longer talked about cars. They talked about the opportunity. They talked about how it inspired people in the city of Newark, how people's lives changed. I remember he put cars up. Remember those days? He told me, he said, you want that car and go get it. I got the car, I got the TV, I got the stereo, I got everything. So they told me I couldn't win no more. But I was smart. I gave it to my team. I inspired my team. When I want a gift, they got the gift because I made the money. If you're doing things that you override on, you got to look smarter, be smarter and wiser to know that it's not about the job. It's about building a philosophy. See, all of us thinking about one thing. We look at the destiny, but the journey that get us to the destiny is what makes us what we are. So Barry, your journey helped a lot of people. And in the end, the Father says, what, I go and prepare a place? All they got to know is this victory at the end of that journey. And you made it inspired, you inspired me, and I continue to talk to you daily because you know what? Even on my search service, if you give me advice, do I use it? Yes. Because it makes a difference. When you see somebody that's did something that proved themselves, that made things happen, do three things, 3 L's, listen, learn, and then lead. A lot of us today, we lead, learn, and listen. We get it all back. So I started listening to you. I learned from you. Now I can lead by example because of you. God bless.
Barry, you didn't only build the cable company with your team, you also contributed to the culture of the city of Newark. Because we remember up on the 3rd floor, Francisco, that there used to be New Year's Eve parties that we weren't invited to. And there were hot parties. We understand. And then you started First Fridays with the team. The first Friday of every month. The history of that in the city of Newark lies with Barry and his team. And then you brought Tremaine Hawkins gospel singing. Up on the third floor of the cable company. I said, what is this? I'm selling it up in the street. 7 days a week, commission only to find out when I come in that it's gonna be a performance. Oh, no, no, it's not for you. But we kept working because we believed that Mary knew what he was doing for the city of Newark, for the team that worked with him, for the employees that he had hired, and for the city that he was born in that he loved. And so I'm going to ask Gloria, one of the persons that he had worked with, who herself is an icon, to come up and say a few words. Gloria Bach.
Thank you, Don, for giving me the opportunity to talk about First Friday and First Friday Group, Inc. and J. Barry Washington, who played a huge role in First Friday's success. We were founded in 1987 as a social and business networking group for African-American professionals. And for the past 17 years, from 1987, we grew into one of the nation's largest and best social and networking group events for African-American professionals. And J. Barry Washington helped us to take it to a new level. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the history because I am a collector of African-American history and Black memorabilia. And I have found that many organizations, and particularly the African-American organizations, tend to forget where they came from, their history, and sort of proceed as if they were hatched. I can give several examples. So usually things start sort of spontaneously and small. And in 1987, a young man named, he was an attorney, Michael Stroud, who was an attorney for a for a Washington, D.C. phone company. And he was billed as the highest paid employee. And he was transferred to Newark and to work in, I think, the New Jersey Bell at the time. And he, when he got here, he said, I wonder where Black professionals can network, after business. And he contacted Renee Jones Weeks, who lived in South Orange at this time, the same place that Michael Stroud did. And they began talking. Renee reached out to me, and we started speaking. So we really need something like that for for us to meet after work. And so we had dinner at the Airport Marriott, Newark Airport Marriott Hotel, to discuss an event that would accomplish these goals. And we started looking around, and the Marriott had a place called the library, Chatfield's Library, which had a sort of home living room atmosphere with an entertainment component. And from there, we decided that, well, this is probably where we can have it. We talked with the hotel, and of course, they were interested in liquor sales and so forth. So they said they would provide hors d'oeuvres for us, and we could have that space. From then on, we contacted our friends who had the same interests, and J. Barry Washington was one of them. There was about 12 of us that we sent out engraved invitations, which looked like this, out of our own expense. And basically it says, because of your unique contributions to the quality of life in the Northern New Jersey, New York metropolitan area, you are cordially invited to attend. And that we wanted you to please plan to attend this special event to socialize, relax, and network with other professionals who are making contributions similar to yours. Well, we were putting money out of our pockets. And it was Jay Berry that took us to a whole nother level, the business and entrepreneurial approach. And we began charging for memberships. And the memberships included coming to the event. We developed a mailing list, which eventually expanded to about 10,000 people, with J. Barry Washington doing all of the work. You could advertise your business through our mailing. When you got to First Friday, we had a VIP room, which you need with a VIP room with very important people. And we were attracting people like public officials, Mayor Sharp James, and Congressman Donald M. Payne in 1988 became our first Black congressman, for the state of New Jersey. And he was very much involved. He was our exception to being involved politically, because we weren't doing politics, but for him, we made the exception. And we had Don, the VIP person, Don Byron, to host our VIP room. And serve champagne and a VIP membership, which costs a little more than fee. But Barry was the one that took us to that level, to the business. We catered to people who did their business in the Newark area, and were in hotels. They would usually their business ended on a Friday, and they would stay till Friday to participate in First Friday. And as a result of that, as a result of a lot of the work that Barry did, we spurned First Fridays all over the country. And we have articles that referred to us because we had people who came from Chicago, came from Los Angeles, and that participated and then went back to their communities and started a First Friday. But very lucky, and I guess maybe we had people on our committee like John Blassingame, who is a publisher and an entertainment czar, and so we were doing very well among each other and also in our community. And we did contribute to various organizations that dealt with children and families, and so forth. But I want to thank you for being part of that history.
So that was a little history that most of you in this room did not know. When it comes to history in the city of Newark, I have to call before Barry comes up, and we will let other people speak at the end. So you can save your thank yous and your flowers that you have to give Barry at that time. But Julius is not only a historian of the city of Newark, but he is just a powerhouse himself and a cultural icon, and a good friend of Barry. And so I'm grateful, sir, that you're here. And we know that you have more than a few words.
Things I could tell. Gloria said she was wondering where the Black professionals were at that time. And I could have told her we were at Mr. West, including him. That's kind of goes over some of y'all's head because you're too young to know where Mr. West was, a cultural gathering place. A wonderful combination. I called it, I'm a lawyer, I call it the place where the lawyer meets his client, because not only did you have the lawyers coming in there, but you had some of the criminals as well. If you were in the criminal law practice, you could do very well coming out of the West. So that's a little bit of the social history. That's the part about Barry that I like. Despite all of the wonderful skills that he has as a very ultimate businessman, he's a very down-to-earth guy. He could hang. Barry still can hang. My great, and I'm learning something about him every day when I'm in here. Every few minutes, I'm learning something more about those skills. Because you got to be a skilled entrepreneur, not only to pull this together, but to keep it going. It's one thing to have the vision, but to be a visionary without the work skills, without the talent. Barry started as a young man working at Prudential, I believe, and he was in the technical field. He learned. He sat there and he listened to people. I tell young lawyers today, yeah, go to the big firms, but pick up the skills and then come out and do it on your own. You don't have to be sitting into those big firms and staying at the basement and working 10 years before you even can rise out of there, and another 20 years before you become a partner. You can become your own partner. That's what he did. He set up his own mindset of where he wanted to go, and so he worked the man to get to where he could be the man. And I appreciate that. Now, everybody didn't have the opportunity that Barry had. I have to talk about this part too. He was one of the few black men or women to be successful in this political climate of Newark at that time. Talking about the 1980s. Everybody didn't have that opportunity. And I'm just going to put it right out there. I don't know where the film is going, but I don't care. White people got more opportunities in this black city than black people did. Can I get a witness? So you see, Barry was able to finesse the politicians. He was able to finesse Prudential and the business folks. He was able to finesse the cable folks. He was able to keep off the enemies, as it were. Because once people saw that Newark was one of those cities where you could make money with cable television, they tried to put it out as light. And so we have to be very proud of a man who was able to combine all of those skills and to do what he did. Now, if you want to learn more, he told me I only had 5 minutes because I like to talk. I was at a gospel month event yesterday, and Councilwoman Round, she had to come up on the stage to get me because I got the spirit and I was just going. Talk about the history of gospel music. I had to come up there, I had to sing some songs. I was just feeling no pain at all. So somebody came up, tapped me on the shoulder. We got some other people that need to be up. So I'm gonna stop. But if you want more, there is a website that I created with the help of some friends called Rise Up Newark. RiseUpNewark.com. That's one word, RiseUpNewark.com. We have way over 1 million people that have looked at it for one reason or another. But under the section on the first 4 years of Mayor Gibson, I think that's where we put it, right? Yeah, it's in the first 4. Yeah, I think that's chapter 4 or chapter 4. You will find my conversation. I brought him out here. I told him he had to come from California to be interviewed, and he came and sat in my living room, and I interviewed him, and he talked and talked and talked and talked. So I got more stuff that I couldn't even put up there because I had to tap him on his show because I had some other people from space. But if you want to see some more of the politics and the politicking that he had to do to become the successful entrepreneur that he was and is, please visit that. Thank you for having me now.
Now, my friend Junius Williams is correct. We could have just stayed with him and then we would have been here. So I'm going to on behalf of my team, extend to you the opportunity, Mr. Juniors, to be a presenter for the DV Connected Network sometime in the near future, because we need your stories. So everything that exists and that you know that exists, including yourselves, has a source. Because everything that is has a beginning. So we're bringing up Barry Washington now to allow him to tell us the story from the beginning. And the beginning is so important because you see, if you know something about the middle and the end, you really don't know the story. You feel like you know the story because you're caught up in the story, but if you got the beginning straight through the end, you can be elevated, transformed in seismic ways about the story. And that is why we're here to get his story. And let me say, this is the very, very first time in Barry's life that he's been able to stand up and tell anybody his story. So welcome, Barry.
Thank you all for coming out. I'm totally touched, shocked, beyond words. But my good friend Gloria here is a collector. And she has the program of our launch. Now, a few of you were here then. We spent $35,000, HBO, Showtime, and other industry money on that launch party. That party was probably the best party I have ever been. And we got them to compete for these positions. This cost Showtime $10,000. This one, Nickelodeon, Movie Channel, they all pitched in. We spent every dime on that party. I was on the subway, pass it around. I was on the subway in New York about 10 years ago. I'm sitting across from this young man, he's looking at me. I know you. Did you do? He said, yeah, you the guy that had that nightclub on Central Avenue. This is overwhelming, to say the least. My first job out of business school, St. Louis. It's on the 21st floor of that building right there, Prudential. And I was going to talk more about the financial part of it, the politics part of it. But Don asked me more than once, how did you have the courage, confidence to do what you did? And I think about it, and you think about, when the sisters get up and say, giving honor to God. It's true. My church, Queen of Angels, support, my family, sisters there, always encouraged me. The city of Newark at that time had after school programs in every public housing project. I live West Kinney Street, right up the street. But we were always busy as youth. Back then it was a lot of male teachers because they couldn't find jobs in the corporate America like I did. They were teachers. Mr. Rob, Mr. Johnson, Mr. Wilson. They see you with a book, they encourage you. See you want to play basketball, they encourage you. Always encouraging, always supportive. Donald Payne Sr., the High Wire, Jones Street, all these places gave us confidence to do our dream. We knew no limits. Yeah, we lived in public housing, but compared to where I was living before, I loved it. Heat. Right. The thing that I remember about coming up in Newark is that after 1967, it changed me. I thought, be honest with you, because I went to Essex Catholic, paid for by Queen of England. I was, smarter than most of the citizens in my class, as my sister likes to call Caucasians. And I knew that, basically I was the honorary white guy until 67. When buses stopped running up West Kenny Street, and I had to walk, and it was National Guard there. And National Guard, young guy about younger than me, I was about 19. He said, "Hey, nigga, where you going?" I kept walking. Me. I'm an A student at Catholic University. He said, "Hey, nigga." Caught up with me, hit me in the ribs with the butt of his knee. I dropped to my knee, and it changed me forever. Because I knew it didn't matter. This is something you have to overcome, work through, and so what? You can do it. The other thing I remember that was encouraging was the politics. Back then, with the white mayor, I was 17, I think, 17, I had to be able to drive. Drove people to the polls for Ken Gibson's first election. He didn't win. But I got involved in politics, and I knew that if we could make a difference at City Hall, it would improve everybody. So I volunteered again. He won. And so it gave me a feeling of empowerment. I had a part in making that change. So I had a confidence that if I asked a politician something, he would respond because I gave up first. I contributed first. And that's something that I try to live my life by. Try to do something before you need it. The other organization was the NAACP. Same thing. I said, boy, if I ever get in trouble, I want to have the NAACP stand up, write me a letter. So I volunteered for the NAACP, licking stamps, do whatever you need. I was there for a couple of years. Didn't need anything, didn't want anything. So when I took that job at Prudential, well, let me tell you how I got to Prudential. I had taken a job in Chicago. I went to business school in St. Louis. And most of the companies, the best job offers came out of Chicago from that school. So I'd taken a job, a company called Inland Steel. High profile program. They allowed me to pursue three areas: marketing, finance, and industrial engineering. I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I took the job. But I came home to visit my friends who now had jobs in City Hall because we were the administration was there. And I walked in, and one of my friends who worked in personnel said, "Barry, my friend just opened an employment agency, and she's trying to get a placement at Prudential. Give her your resume, and she'll impress them with your resume." Sure. Gave her my resume. She called me up and said, "They want to talk to you." I said, "Fine." Went over to Prudential. Can you take this? We need somebody in finance with a technical background. I said, "I'm not interested in working in Newark, but I'll take the test." They gave me the test, did well on the test, introduced me to the vice president of the Common Stock Department of Prudential, and he talked me into staying in Newark. I would have been in Chicago had I not volunteered in the campaign, hung out at City Hall, and ended up at this sister's employment agency. Took that job right to the 21st floor of Prudential. Fast forward a few years, a friend of mine I played ball with the city planner, Will Allen. Will Allen catches me after a game, playing down at the Y. He says, "Barry, come to work with us at MPDO, Mayor's Policy and Development Office. We got a finance job. We need you bad." I said, "Man, I've been to City Hall. It's crazy down there." He said, "How much you make it?" 10% more, no problem. I said, "I tell you what, if you could convince the chairman of Prudential to lend me to the city of Newark, I'll come. So I knew that was going. 2 days later, my boss comes to me and says, Mr. McNaughton says they want to lend you to City Hall. So, okay. So I took the job. And it changed me more than you can imagine, because being down there and working with our people, trying to get stuff done in the political realm is totally different than the corporate sector. Totally. I mean, you have to convince people. You can't just tell them what to do. You have to convince them, because civil service employees are their own bosses. The clerk power in the city is what makes the city. You got to convince them to move that paper off that desk. And so I learned how to work with people at that level without dictating, without rank, just because it's the right thing to do. That's your job. You want to do a good job, don't you? And I was able to learn how to work with people and not just push people. Fast forward a little bit further. We, as a community development block grant, had $20 million to give away to this organization. My job was to do the budgets and monitor the budget so that everything was according to the budget. Nobody stole money, to make sure that didn't happen. And as a result, I made a lot of friends with those agencies, helping them spend that money. Now, that's a quick way to meet people who have influence at City Hall, because those agencies compete for that $20 million. A little bit further on that job, we had to do a public hearing in every neighborhood of the city to tell them how we spent the money. So we showed them daycare centers, we showed them rehab apartments, we showed them clean streets. After all the presentation, people in the back said, forget all that, we want cable TV. I said, really? Well, it just so happened I had done a paper in grad school on using cable as a way to finance a community development organization like Bed-Stuy Incorporated. I know people are familiar with that, but at that time, Bed-Stuy in Brooklyn, Bed-Stuy Restoration owned the McDonald's. So instead of owning the McDonald's, we'll own a cable company. So I set it up. Arnie McKinnon, one of the geniuses at MPDO at the time, him and I worked on it, wrote up the proposal, and I said, well, maybe I can convince Prudential to be a public-private partnership and make this happen so we can bring cable to Newark. Well, I took it to my mentor, Ed Zimbar. He sat down, he said, look, John, they call me John there. He said, that's what the J stands for. Those organizations are very hard to work with. I was on the board with Robert Kennedy at Bed-Stuy Restoration Corporation. It was a pain in the butt. He said, now, if you change this from Newark Development Corporation to Barry Washington Corporation, I think Prudential's interested. So guess what? That's what I did. And the rest, as they say, is history. There's so many things that, well, Prudential, part of the training program for executives to be at Prudential was you had to volunteer or to be on a board of a community organization. I volunteered to be on the board of Theater of Universal Images. Clarence Ali, who I met hanging out, as Junior likes to say that I like to do. And I knew Clarence. I said, Clarence, Prudential wants me to be on your board. What do you think? He said, oh man, come on. So I got on TUI's board. We're doing the plays, Antonio Fargas, Nicholas Brothers. I mean, it was big fun. So we're sitting back in his office one day looking at the budget. And Clarence goes, well, if we had cable TV, we could put the plays on TV. I said, what do you know about cable TV? He reaches under his desk and pulls out 6 magazines from an institution called the Booker T. Washington Foundation. Now, the Booker T. Washington Foundation was a think tank in Washington that looked at different businesses that could be leveraged from a political perspective. In other words, if you could get the votes, you could get a cable franchise. And it showed you step by step how to do that. So Clarence gave me those magazines. I read them, and I followed everything in those magazines. And in connection communication happened. Now, I guess one of the key things about Prudential is that they had a community development fund and basically said, if you can convince real cable bank, we don't know anything about cable, but we got money, we'll match whatever you can raise. So I, again, thinking about, okay, how you raise capital, looked into who's in the finance business. Well, there's a company called Daniels and Bell, first Black firm on Wall Street. Travers Bell was their principal. So I went over to Daniels and Bell's office, Travers Bell. I told him the proposal. I told him I set up with Prudential. He says, "Yeah, that makes sense." So I know some bankers. I didn't get you in the door, but I got a secret for you. What I'm going to do is assign this young white guy who just got a business school to be your apprentice. And when you approach these banks, let him do the talking. Right? He said, you work out your communication, nonverbal, and have him get you past that first couple of people. And that's what I did. So subjugated my ego, let him do the talking. Don't you know we got a letter from Chase Manhattan Bank? $2.5 million.
Wow.
Getting the votes. But the big part from the Washington Foundation said, don't matter. If you can't get the votes, it don't matter how good your proposal is. The thing that Junior said was very true. At that time, there was a majority 5-4 white black. Looked at it, he said, we got to get that vote. How do we do that? Well, there was a young man who was running one of the agencies in Newark by the name of Ralph T. Grant, running for office. So we said, guess what? If we don't get him in that office, I'm going back to Prudential because it won't happen. So we pulled together from hanging out. I got all the disco buddies, and I had Harold Edwards, a few others. And we said, we got to get this brother elected. So we put everything we had. We had our disco speakers on the back of Ralph's trucks and Donald Tucker's trucks. And Ralph won that election by less than 200 votes. So we know we had impact. So who was our champion at City Council? So I want to stop talking about the mechanism because, we had to gear up. I went around to different, every time I saw an employee that looked like they knew what they were doing, Francisco and with his camera at Essex County College, Robert Thomas at a bank dealing with the crazy folks, Harmon Rodriguez at the Y, crazy, come work with us. We got something for you. And they all came and they all contributed. Listening to Marvin and Don talk about being salesmen used to make me crazy that their paycheck was bigger than mine. That's how we made it happen. So on that program, because Calvin Reed, for instance, he brought him in because I knew he was interested in the business, and he was aggressive and had no fear. He was a natural marketing person. Of course, Clarence, had those magazines and programming. And by the way, we never could get a playwright to give us the rights to show up. They always wanted more money than we were thinking about paying. to put a play on us. We never put a play on Clarence, did we? And then, of course, there was only one lawyer, my wife's best friend's husband, Melvin Hussein, who gave us the time of day, because all the other regular lawyers thought we were crazy. Not that you're not a regular lawyer, Melvin, but the point is the team came together, and Al Bundy, for instance, I met him as when I was working as a consultant for Northwood Center. Steve Adobato. I grew up at Queen of Angels, as I said, my senior leader. So when we did the public hearing, Northwood Center had buses, about 4 buses of Italian senior citizens at the hearing. The New Communities had 4 buses of chocolate senior citizens at the hearing. But the community, because I had the ability, the opportunity to help them with the community development block grants, every time I asked somebody from an agency or had a group of people, they all said, sure, Barry, we're with you. I'm gonna pass, I have a program here from that launch party. I'm gonna pass it around, but there's so many people in here. This is our community development advisory board. Steve Adobato, Ben Amos, Victor Luca, Hubert Williams, Julius Williams, Esquire. Give you free cable on everybody. Anyway, I'd like to hear more stories. I got one story about, Pastor, about the sales stories are always the best. 2 of them. First one was my investors say, you putting cable in the public housing? I said, yeah. He said, well, you know, the demographics say that they can't afford it. I said, don't tell us what we can afford. And one salesperson came in and said, this person doesn't have a phone. And they said, well, they got cable without a phone. They got no phone, but they pay cable. And the lady said, well, look here. If I need a phone call, I'll go next door and use the phone. I can't watch my story. And the other story was from Calvin Reed. Calvin Reed, he was had his marketing. So he went out and said, and he knocked on the door, and a blind person answered, right? And he said, would you like to buy cable, ma'am? She said, I'm blind, can't you see? He said, well, man, what's that on in the background? I said, well, it's TV. I said, you listening? Don't you want to listen to 100 channels? All right. So on that note, I want to stop talking about that. I want to hear if anybody else has anything to say about their experience with us at Connection. Again, it was a joy in my life to bring it here. I've helped other companies do the same thing. And, you know, I love the city of Newark. I'm in Brooklyn now, but I'll be back before it's over. I'm going to be back in Newark. And as this one teacher told me, white guy, I said, you from Newark? He said, yeah, I'm from Newark. He said, I'm Newark born, I'm Newark bred, and when I die, I'll be Newark dead.
Any questions that anybody might have for Barry? Yes, go ahead, Dave.
Actually, I just have a comment. First of all, I just want to bring attention to Junius's Rise Up page. That's an excellent website and an excellent resource about North's history. For me, I want to thank my mentor, Peppers, because I never knew a black man was behind cable vision. And I'm a former educator, former teacher in Newark, and this story is so important. And we have to have more students know about the history of Newark in this way, because there's so many young people. I work with young people in real time, and there's so many young people in Newark who don't see the connection, right? Who don't see the possibilities. And it's not that these possibilities don't exist, but sometimes the stories are lost. Yeah. So it's really important that we find some kind of way to bridge this gap and bring this story back. The fact that I didn't know, and I tend to know a lot. Yeah, but I'm just so so moved by your story, and I'm so happy for your contribution to the city. I'm so happy that you thought that Newark was the place to be. I want my daughter to meet you. My daughter is a young elected official, and I want you two to connect. So I'll get your information when this is over and see how we can partner. But thank you for your.
First, I want to give all honor, praise, and glory to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, from whom all my blessings come, from whom all my brothers' blessings come. My name is Ava Lynn Washington Hayes, and I have so many stories to tell about my experience working at Connection Communications Corporation. I'll start at the beginning. So many stories. In the very beginning, from my experience, Barry called me up one time. I knew he was working on a project. He was telling me about cable television. I never heard of cable myself. I was just doing Kansas, and we didn't have hardly TV out there. But anyhow, so one day he said, "Well, I want you to come with me to the weekday section to go door to door and get a survey going on to see how many people might be interested in it." I said, "Oh, okay," because he had a way to get me to do things, and I stand back and say, "Now, what just happened?" So I'm going door to door, talking about cable as best as I could, and it was a weekly endeavor. I mean, every weekend we were out there side by side going door to door to see whether or not people would want cable. And most people, once you explain it to them, they were all for and all on board. And then fast forward, later on, he asked me if I would be interested in working at the cable television company. And at that time, I was working as a teacher in the city of Newark for many years. And at that time, it had become quite disillusioned with teaching because all the politics that I saw happening within the classroom and not just in the school itself. I really became a little disillusioned. So when he asked me if I would work for him, I said, sure, I would. I wanted to support him with my brother, and I wanted to go forth with the vision that he had. But I know if he had a vision, I knew it had to be good. He was a very smart brother. In fact, I wouldn't be able to go to college. It had to do for him because my parents didn't have to pay anything for him. He had all the scholarships all the time, and they sure had to pay for me. He had all the scholarships, academic and athletic. But anyhow, my experience at the cable company is so vast, including with Mr. Whitebrick, I still call Mr. Whitebrick Don. There were so many incidences, but when I worked here, it was known that I was very systematic. I didn't have. I took pride in it because for me, I represented not just our family, but our people, as a nation. And so many stories. I would tell you one in the beginning. We had cable installers, and one of our cable installers got in some trouble with drugs, and got pulled over a whole vast scenario. And most people running a company, CEO and president, if that happened, they would be fired on the spot. But my brother didn't do that. He had compassion and he saw the potential. He told that brother, he said, listen, if you can get yourself in a drug rehab program and you complete that successfully, you can have the job for him. And that's the type of brother that he is. He saw something in that person. Because you have a problem going on, doesn't mean that you're condemned to be someone who has to stand in the line for a handout, label, instead of seeing the potential that you have. And another story that I have too, which is really kind of humorous, that I think one of our sales managers, whose name I won't mention, but that be addressed all the time with the salespeople. So I happened to mention to him one time because for me, everyone knew who I was, and I used to tell everybody, if I see something, I'm going to say something because I want this company to be a success. And I did it nicely, but everyone took it well. And this one particular time, this particular manager, he was giving the salespeople what for. I mean, he was all kind of bad. I said, how in the world do you expect the salespeople to succeed talking to them like that? Well, he said to me, well, first of all, you're not even a manager. I looked at him and I said, you know what? I might not be a manager. I said, but in this one solitary finger that can make a phone call upstairs to the headquarters, that's more power than then you have your life. What I was talking about, and so he turned around quite abruptly, and he said, he was leaving. I said, you know what, and plus you're rude. I said, you don't have to be like that. He said, oh, okay, teacher, may I be dismissed now? I said, yes. But so many wonderful stories, and Don right here was a manager one time for customer service, which I used to work in. And Don, when we worked the whole day, I mean, like from the morning to closing time, 5 o'clock, and sometimes Don would come to customer service and can I get someone to work pay per view till midnight? I said, but you know what we did? I did like Don. He was so personable and such a person that you really wanted to work for. And I should tell that to my students also. You're likable and approachable. People will bend over backwards to help you. You have to have the right persona, the right attitude. And he always had that. He was professional. None of that. He was likable. Hey, brother, get your two things. I'm working at midnight. I always work the whole day. Okay, you work pay for the midnight. I said, okay, Don. I said, just like what just happened. But so many wonderful stories. And I appreciate the opportunity to have worked for that. But when I talked about the salesperson, I said all that to him because I felt that it wasn't just a job and just for the company to succeed, but I felt that we represented our entire people as a nation. We represented the Black American community in terms of business, and we had to present ourselves such a professional manner, in a professional manner, always being on time and carrying yourself in a professional, dignified way. And not only that, to know your job, do your research, and know what you want to do. But so many times people call up, especially the people, as my grandmother would say, of the other expression from South Orange, customers, they would call up and they said, man, here, you talk to them because you know how to talk to them. I said, you know what? You can learn how to talk to anybody. Don't let a description or color of your skin stop you from communicating. Learn how to speak their language, speak to them with confidence. So if you just step and just walk and just a little bit, they'll step right in. And so I would show them how to speak. Like you speak with confidence and know what you're talking about, and don't stop. Just take control of the conversation, and that's what happened. And again, so much that you have accomplished, and it's so symbolic what he has done. And like the educator back there said, our young people really need to know what happened in the City of Newark, because Robert don't believe that they can succeed. When they get a summer job, where they go? They go to McDonald's. You don't have to go to McDonald's. Well, where are the other people's kids going? You're not always going to McDonald's. You're going to an office. You're going to the doctor's office to work in the hospital for the summer. So many things. Black businesses can take in our young people for the summer and teach them their skill and what can be expected of them in the future. Open up your eyes and see the possibility. Don't limit yourself to just McDonald's and other fast food places, but as a community and corporates, you have to open up the doors so that they can come in for a program like that, which we really need more of. And I just thank you. God bless you. I wish my parents would be in this.
That call, helpful.
How you doing? I just want to say, I'm amazed at the story that you just told. I'm Alberta Gordon. We work together on the Choice Neighborhood Initiative on Southern North City of Learning, where we work the Choice Neighborhood Initiative and trying to bring Pillar College to the Dayton Street neighborhood as a track. So I didn't know you had this other rich history. We have very similar backgrounds, finance and technology, corporate experience. So I love all the things that you said. I love learning all this history. Julius, I worked with Julius a lot when we were trying to do local control. There's different things, and this advocacy, this expression that you're talking about was he get grants. Well, you probably gave above the rim one. So, I really am happy to learn all the stuff about you. And like Dana said over there, we really need the community to know about this, because one of the things that I really understand is that we have to get our kids to understand more about the technology. So, as a person who's involved in AI every day, I want to figure out how we can bring that to this community and figure out how we can get young kids involved in AI, because the people who are building those models, they don't look like you and I. So we have to make sure there's no bias in AI models and learn more about, and your history is so rich. I don't know, we have to get it to younger people, we need to put it on TikTok, we need to put it on, we need to get the young people to now play, because every day we talk about, in this community about how we can get people, out to do things and vote and these voting initiatives. So like you, I lived in the neighborhood with Ken Gibson, so when I was young, we were passing out flyers for Don Brad. And my family would have campaign headquarters for Mildred Crump and George Branch and Don Tucker. So, you know, I really feel it really close to this story that, you know, I'm sorry, I just really never knew your impact. And so Don, I'm so happy that he has brought this to the fold. And I wish more people younger were on TV. But so I'm definitely going to be singing the words about your history and this whole cable company. I mean, just your impact and how you were able to work the corporate side and connect it with the economic development of the city. It's just an amazing story. And I thank you for your service in this community.
So, Bobby, I just want to say thank you. Before getting started, things that we, nobody can see it, but we have live council meeting today because of you. We used to have great debates, when you see violence, a lot of things that we did together. I got a phone call from a councilman the other day looking for the Pop Warner patients. Pop Warner.
Somebody truck we got.
Yes. Yeah, we'll build up to the truck and we can road, so it'll be a lot of things. So thank you very much.
Loretta?
I met Darwin Washington in 1987. I started working for a connection cable along with Vincent McFarland, Dion, who's right here, and Marlene. It was my first job, like maybe 5 years out of high school. And to work for you and Lawrence had me and Francisco, who worked in advertising and programming. It was an honor. Yeah. A lot of people don't know connection cable. What is connection cable? But then it became cable vision, and now it became Alpha. And also with Lawrence had me doing so. All right, Don, thanks for putting me on the spot.
Yes.
I am excited to learn even more information. Come on. Okay, so as some of you know, I'm Tara Williams and born and raised in Newark. And also now I have my own business at work. But what I do know of you, Mr. Washington, and all that you've done, I first learned about cable vision when you came to Metropolitan Baptist Church. And we were doing our economic development corporation we was trying to put together there. And I just was in awe of all the things that you have done. And now seeing how you built it, hearing the story about how you built it, one of the things for me is one of the newest industries that is coming to New Jersey, and we're trying to make sure that people benefits from that, offshore wind industry. And so I would love to be able to use your skills and bringing new things to somehow create a business, create opportunities for people to really benefit from this industry. I went to a workshop last year for a week, so I can do it from a child's perspective, right? Because I work with children, so there's a whole Kid Win program that teaches them about all the jobs that they can be in, all the careers, etc. But we really need something even more, right? Because the real money is not just the real money is in companies that are bringing this new technology in the industry. So we can really tackle that. So awesome. I already know all the good stuff about you and all that you've done, but if we take that and bring it even further forward, or even more.
Yes. Wait.
Yes, I just want to say, it's a very touching experience and hearing your journey and hearing how you managed to pull it off. I'm born and raised here in Newark, I lived 30 years in Detroit. I saw Don Barton go, oh yeah, I know you guys, sure, that you went through here, down there. And now that we have so much talent, I grew up on the South Ward over there in Sharp, just a councilman and a track coach. Lots of Judy's them on my bike that they was throwing things, right? So, you know, so it's a very powerful piece we have, but the disconnect is almost like the brains and the body because the neck doesn't know what's going on in this part for the kids, for the teachers, for the curriculum, for the direction, for the vision is gone. Because unless you find like Brother Ken Carter just insisted I come with it, so I said, let me come to see what's going on. I've been back inside maybe about 5 years. And I realized that we have to get ahead of the game, not only catching up with the game. We get stuck because we're catching up with the game. We're buying their vision to determine what we're going to do for our people. And we can't win like that. Cannot let the doe and the deer the doe and the buck give the buck and the deer give the doe to the lion to protect them in the forest. And that's what we do. We're giving our kids to the very animals that eat does for direction. And we're not using the power. We got to 10x you before you get 140 and you leave the planet. And that's what we need to be thinking about, how we lead so that they're following us. I lived in Africa for years, for 4 years. And the one thing I learned is they're not the leaders on brains, brilliance, capacity. We just perceive that because we've been sucked by the media, like Byron Allen has said, to make us think that they're the leaders. And once we realize that we can get ahead of them, let them chase us with the power, brilliance, talent, expertise. Yes. Thank you. Thank you, brother.
Eric?
Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, man. Like most people say, there's many stories. I'm not gonna go through it. So. Barry. So hello, everybody. My name is Derek Law. My history starts when I'm 19 years old, leaving Barrington High School, not knowing what I'm going to do. Friends going to the, to the Army, the military. Some going to college. I'm straight out of school. I don't know what I want to do. So what do? I sign up for the school for executive secretaries. And I learn how to type. That's what happened. I type faster than most people. 85, 90 words a minute. And I came to the cable company knocking on the door, trying to get a job. Took about 6 months to get that job. They hired me and I became a data entry clerk. Entering all those work orders that all those cells in that went connection communication cable, for the most part, I was typing in those work orders. And so I was doing that for a long time. And then Barry, hired Robert Thomas. Robert Thomas came in as the manager of customer service, which was a smart move. And still entering those data entry work orders. But Robert, he's seen something in me. Right? So up late at night, I used to look up in your office and sometimes it was just me and Barry in the office. Barry's up there, I'm down there, batching up everything, all night long. And then Robert, wonderful, he said, hey, you like computers. So I became a computer operator, senior computer operator. TI system. I remember when it was deployed, I was a part of deploying that entire system. Okay. So went from data entry clerk to being a computer operator. And I managed all of the computer operation and connection communication.
at the age of 20, 21. That's what I started doing. And I was the one that was doing all of the dispatching with Robert for all of the work orders. Now I used to come over there and say, hey man, can you get this person on the schedule? Always out there, can you get this person on the schedule? And Robert and I was responsible for that, putting a whole list together of who got installed in the city for cable TV services. Okay. So from that, I was just amazed going through that whole process. I was there for 5 years. Not gonna go to all the parties. I'm not gonna go to all the late nights. I wasn't told you couldn't come up there, Don. I was up there all the time. I was up in those parties all the time. And I want to just, what I want to be able to do is I want to set the stage, right? And then I'm gonna let Robert come in. Because the journey is about legacy. And right now at this moment, fast forward from 1960. And right there from there, I have multiple companies in telecommunication and broadband industry right now in the city of Newark. We are at the cusp of building out our own broadband network infrastructure right now in the city of Newark. But it has so much to do with Barry Washington, Robert Thomas, Don Bybree, Melvin, all the people, Lawrence Hackney, and that journey goes on. And so when I look at the legacy of Barry Washington, it runs deep in Newark, and I appreciate you, you know. And from that journey, me and Robert, we partnered up. I'll let Robert go a little bit into it, but we built paging systems, two-way alphanumeric paging throughout the Caribbean. Throughout the Caribbean, St. Thomas, St. John, Puerto Rico. That started the journey of traveling around the world. I have a lot. That's for Robert Thomas. So that's all I want to say. Don't want to take up too much time. Thank you so much. Thank you. Robert.
I don't even know where to begin. I was sitting there and realized that I've been knowing Barry since age 12. He was my basketball coach and Queen of Angels. And it dawned on me, I'm like, wow, I've known Barry for over 50 years. He has always been a coach, always have been a mentor. My first career was in banking. Barry recruited me over to Connection Cable. And my first day, there was about 2,000 customer complaints. You know, when you're a new company going through growth, they were complaints, inquiries, whatever. And when that first year of Connection Cable, you could not get through on the customer service. Derek and the team we assembled together, we worked 12, 15 hours. And in about 6 months, like Barry, there's no more complaints. I said, I challenge you to call that customer service line. Picked up the first time. God be glory. So Barry has truly been a mentor. He's a graduate of Essex Catholic. Guess where I went to? Essex Catholic. So it's by no coincidence, as Derek said, he became the person in charge of computers there. 21, 22. I came in initially as the customer service manager. I think by age 26, I was the operations manager. So he's been my mentor in business. And because of my age, other people felt that they could push me around, but I would make a decision. And Barry would always say, what did Robert say? And everybody fell in line because of that. And this story about him does have to get out, because what I heard today, I didn't even know. But I'm not surprised Because a lot of times when I would go to Barry's office, I would find him reading. All the time, Barry would be in his office reading. He might as well have had a bed there because he was there in his office all the time. And as Derek mentioned, after leaving the cable company, started my own. And guess what? Communication business, advanced communication. And
The cell phone, it was because of Robert Thomas.
right, we were the largest Black-owned telecommunications company in this area, especially on the East Coast. And as Derek mentioned, we built paging systems outside of the United States. So we had a great time. Derek and I used to be in the Caribbean a lot. I do remember those Purple Rain parties. Connection, communication. Yeah, so Barry, you know, I can't thank you enough. You know, definitely what Derek is doing, what I've have done, and even now as an educator, teaching entrepreneurship, supply chain management. This is the man.
And I just want to add, because I cannot forget this. So based on the stuff that we're doing, where we're connected together, and Don has connected us together, and you heard Al's buddy, I have to share this. Barry was huge based on workforce development in Newark. He put so many people to work in Newark. And right now, we're following that legacy right now where my partners and our companies just helped Essex County College win a PACE grant for $502,000 to train people in Newark how to become a fiber optic installer and technician to build out broadband internet infrastructures in New Jersey. We also just found out that we with Irvington School District, another grant to help do fiber optics. And Robert invited us over to East Orange School District, and we're working to do the same fiber optic installer and broadband technician wireless in East Orange.
That's right. East Orange.
All that. Legacy is live, and I just had to share workforce development and training because teachers and everyone that's out there, we're trying to bring that to Newark to educate people so that they can enter these high-paid jobs. Appreciate that.
Hudson, also from Newark, High Court, raised in the projects. So love Newark.
Hello, everybody. Hello, Barry. My name is Adrian Counselor. I'm the publisher of the Positive Community Magazine. Faith-based lifestyle magazine. I started 25 years ago, in my 25th year. My story actually begins with Don Byerly, because I was a general sales manager for radio station WBLS and WLIB. And I convinced the management at our radio station to let's look at opening up an office here in Newark, New Jersey. And the person that, I don't know how this happened, but it was Don Byerly that me and my general manager came and met with, and it must have taken us about half the night with Don telling us everything that we needed to know about Newark. Gus Hiddingberg founded our office at 2 Park Place in Newark. And we began in 1998. Why did we want to come to Newark? Because it was Chocolate City. And Newark didn't have, LIB was at that time, Caribbean Music and News and Talk, remember? And so from there on, my relationship with Don began. And when I left the company in 2000 is when I went and started the publication of Positive Community. It was through encouragement people like Don Bradbury that I've become 25 years later. And so please give this man a round of applause. But I must say, through his wise counsel, I was asked to co-chair an organization for the American Diabetes Association. African Americans for Diabetes Awareness was the name of our organization. Don actually selected my co-chair, Kaylin Dines. And the program went so well that, and Don was our chief advisor, the program went so well that we became the #1 African program in the United States of America. I just want to say, I've known about this legend, Barry, for quite some time. We've run into each other. But to hear what I heard today affirms that we as a people, we have to take responsibility for that which is ours. We have to take responsibility for communicating to our community from our lens. And then above all, we have to introduce more of our young people to the vocation of sales. Very, very important that our young people have an understanding of sales as a vocation, because what it leads to is ownership of business. You began in sales. Obviously, selling was a part of everything that you've done and everything that you continue to do. So I just wanted to say that this has been a very important meeting, and I got to see a whole lot here. And I really understand and appreciate that you've been an encourager of ours for quite some number of years. Whenever Barry would see it, man, we love the magazine. You know, we get it at Metropolitan, we get it here, we get it there, but it's just so often, and I think that we shouldn't play short. You know, money is important if you're going to stay in business. But sometimes, you know, when times are hard, somebody just comes up to you and says, man, I just like what you're doing. It just gives you the courage to take that one more step into the unknown. And so I think that we're here today to encourage one another, to see that the opportunities abound, Junius Williams, the opportunities abound, and that that people like you, we just thank God for your presence here and all that you've done in the city of Newark. And I'm glad to be here with you, sir. Thank you.
Barry, we've got a lot of people online, as you can see here. We've had more than 40 people participate today. A couple people that had worked with you, Deborah Best, Thomas McLeod, Wanda Pendleton, and Joyce, but her last name is not up there. So hopefully you can do that. But you know, this has been great. I've learned so much about you and what you're doing and the impact that you've had. You know, we got some questions from people in the audience. So first question is, what are some of the key lessons learned that you've had? Oh, sorry. So we've got some questions from the people in the audience. The first one is, what are the key lessons learned? Or what's one of the key lessons learned through what you accomplished? I guess if you have a question online, you can unmute and ask your question. I think we can hear you here. So, yeah. Dorian, you want to test that? Make sure we can hear you. Okay. Anybody want to unmute? See if we can hear you.
Hear me? Testing 1, 2, 3. Are you
okay? Now we can hear you.
You can hear me?
Wanda. Yeah,
Hi, okay. Yes, this is Wanda. First, let me say, I was chatting a lot in the chat box.
because I started in the cable industry very early on. And I remember when I found out that there was a Black-owned cable company in Newark, and that these brothers had stood up against the major cable operators who said the minority communities weren't viable cable opportunities. But I applaud you, Barry Washington, because you are the man. And I'll tell anybody who'll listen. And I mean that from my deep, deep heart. You truly, truly are a pioneer. Bob Johnson gets the recognition, as he should, in that he bought us BET. But you bought cable to the largest city in the state of New Jersey. And the New York Times wrote an article back in 1983 saying it was the only Black-owned cable operation on the East Coast. So you have been my inspiration. Continue to be who you are, motivate and share. And also just share a little bit about how you, along with other senior level management within the cable industry, because I never worked for you directly. I came on board when that transition happened, much to my chagrin. But be as it may, the fact that I was able to work with Don Viapre, Deborah Best, Lawrence Hackney, and I mean, we kicked butts and took no names. And we talk about it with such, it was an anomaly. It just didn't happen that way. But share a little bit, if you would, about how you started the National Associations of Minorities in Cable and why you did it. Why you did it. But we needed it so desperately, because at that time it was less than 2% of us within the industry. And look at us today. I'll close with that.
Thank you, Wanda. Appreciate you. When we started the company, there was no inner city in the country that had cable, none, because they thought, I guess Black folks couldn't afford it, didn't want it. It was a mystery, but we were first. Before Detroit, before Chicago, before DC, before New York. The only other inner city, it wasn't really a city, Harlem had it because of Manhattan, but Bronx, Brooklyn, none of them. We proved that inner city could be viable, not only that, thrive. When we used to go to cable conventions, be 1,000, 2,000 people in Las Vegas, what have you, it might be 10, 15 Black representatives. We were the only company. This was before BET. And we decided to come together. There was a woman named Gracie Nottingham that had something called Minorities in Cable. And Melvin Hussein and I looked at each other and said, we need to help Gracie expand this organization to get more Blacks involved in the national level. And we convinced, trying to think of, Patrick Mellon, sister from Time Warner. But anyway, we came together. We met. The first meeting was Melvin Hussein's office. In fact, Gracie approached Melvin about having a meeting in his office in Newark. So name it, well, it was called MIC, Minorities in Cable. We had a meeting 360 Central Avenue. And I kept looking at MIC, and I kept thinking Mickey Mouse. MIC, I said, we got to change the name. Let's put NA in front of it, call it Name It. That way we won't be a Mickey Mouse organization, we'll be Name It. So I take the credit. I don't get it, but I take it, changing MIC to Name It. And it still exists. It's a national organization. We've been responsible for recruiting major companies to sponsor internships all over the country. And one of these days I'm going to approach them and remind them that I was the one who changed the name. But thanks for reminding us.
More questions? Oh, yeah. Is there any other questions from online? Yeah. So, before we, well, actually, question everybody wants to hear is, why did you sell?
Wow. That's a complicated question. In fact, it was actually written up in the Wall Street Journal. Front page, top for the fall. We sold the company for $35 million. We got backed into that sale because there was a management change at Prudential. The new manager had no faith in me specifically and Newark in general. He was got demoted from base securities, got put over here at Prudential, and basically hated being in Newark.
What's the name? Who was it?
Forgot his name. But I ran into his secretary about 2 years later, and she said, I don't know what you did to upset him, but he did not like you. And to my detriment. Anyway, point was that they didn't believe that the investment they had in us would pay off. They ended up giving us lending us about $5 million. And we said, well, we need to recapitalize, we need new equipment, we need another 3 from you. Well, Prudential, multi-billion-dollar corporation, there was no reason for them not to extend that for you, but they didn't. They said, well, prove the value of the company. How do you prove the value? You get it appraised. So we went to the biggest cable appraiser in the country to appraise the system. They appraised it at $23 million. We wanted $5 million on top of the total. We had other money, but this was only have to put up $3 million. We gave them the $23 million appraisal. That particular executive said, I don't believe it. Now, what do you say to that? So we hired a broker, like you hired to sell your house. And the broker said, okay, what do you want? So they said 23. So I said, well, let's say we'll only sell at 30, 23, 30. I figured nobody would come back with a higher than. We got 8 offers over 30 million. 8. And the way those deals work, when Daniels, I don't know whether they're still in the business, their commission would have been $1 million. They said, we got you the offers. If you don't take the offers, that's your business, but you got to pay us $1 million. And that's why I had to have $1 million to pay them their commission to keep the company.
Okay.
And it was like so I indirectly blame Prudential, but how can you blame somebody that helped you get the business?
Yes.
They told us, you should be happy, you're going to walk away with it. I never wanted to sell it. I still see the potential of that cable that we put under is still working, it's still viable. If we'd have kept that company, the value of that company right now is probably $200 million. Certainly. But it was never about the money. And the investors that put up the money, the venture capital companies, whatever it's called, Syncom. Syncom took its $1.5 million profit from us and created the BET that you know today. They went public. If it wasn't for that, if we had to sold that company, BET might not have been able to expand. And the other 30 companies that so it was a play it forward situation. The team that I put together ran that company. Don is a perfect example. We picked good people, and our people were competent. Not only competent, they were excellent. And I have no regrets. How can I? Because it's there. We made it happen. And am I mad at Prudential? No. But that's why I said.
Okay. Great. One thing just to share before you go. Part of the DV network, we do these every quarter or so. We do have an online platform. So if you want to go back and see all the old ones, they're available, as well as some of the other presentations and talks that we've had. So I put them on my Small Business Pro University that I set up as a platform. So we'll send you all access to it. And then you have access to the DB network. You have access to all the sessions that we've had with Don. And if I could take 3 minutes, Don's been a mentor to me, and what you've done is passed down. And one of the great things that has started over 12 years ago is I started doing the Power Breakfast in Newark, New Jersey for entrepreneurs and business owners. And, as you know, entrepreneurship is the key to the success of our future. But I met Don not too long before that because a mutual friend from the Rotary Club said, you have to meet Don. And I talked to Don about wanting to do a Power Breakfast. And he gave me ideas, but not only that, he walked me over to the Newark Club and said, you're going to do his events and you're going to give him good pricing. And that's what he's done. And 12 years later, we've helped businesses get tens of millions of dollars in financing, $10 million in revenue generated directly from it. And we have our next event coming up, and we're coming back to Newark. If I could play a 2-minute video just so people know what about the event, this is going to be our biggest one and our best one. We're here at the Small Business Power Breakfast and Conference. I'm excited to say that we had a great day.
This event was a wow. Every panel, every speaker has had so much amazing content and good information to share.
This is a good day to put aside to come out and do some learning, but also make some great connections. The ones that I made were impactful.
Hi, I'm Andrew Frazier, masterpreneur and founder of the Small Business Pro University. For more than 10 years, our events have directly resulted in tens of millions of dollars in both revenue and financing for attendees. Join me at the Small Business Pro Power Conference on July 26th in Newark, New Jersey, to learn best practices, enjoy great networking, and gain useful knowledge. We will supercharge your day.
Hi, I'm Lana Molina, Community Outreach Liaison for Lakeland Bank. Lakeland Bank is proud to sponsor the Power Breakfast this year, actually for the entire year. We are very thrilled for this partnership to put much needed small business financial literacy education and create forums like this for entrepreneurs and small business owners to meet, interact, learn, and network.
The conference theme is Secrets to Generating More Revenue. And you don't want to miss our featured guest speaker, Precious L. Williams, the Killer Pitch Master. She will be talking about Rainmaking 101 from day one.
Good day, everyone. Hey, hey, hey. It's your girl, Precious Williams, the Killer Pitch Master, and I can't wait to see you at the Small Business Power Breakfast and Conference. Be there or be square. I know you're going to be there.
You'll also want to check out our expert panel, Creating Strategic Alliances to Drive Revenue Growth. I look forward to seeing you at the Small Business Pro Power Conference on July 26th in Newark, New Jersey. To learn more and register, visit www.sbprou.com/conference. Take advantage of our early bird pricing by registering today at www.sbprou.com/conference. Okay, any plans to venture into streaming?
Well, it's not really, not industry. I've been looking at, thinking about a new type of TV guide that takes into account the multiple streams. And the fact that if you buy a smart TV today, it not only comes, it may or may not come with off the air ability, but the ones that do, there's like 100 channels available off the air. They're digital now, but they have interesting content. not only that, you have, you know, the Roku platform, you have the it's Amazon's
Prime.
the Prime. You have that stick,
Fire stick.
the Fire Stick, and finding what to watch in time to watch it. If it's real time, it's a challenge. But or even Samsung. I have a TV now with a Samsung. It came with 125 channels. They have a section in there with black channels, about 7 of them, with black content. But who knew? Who knows? And so you're flipping through, and this was the same problem we had years ago when we started the cable company. So at the time, my wife at the time, I paid her to create a guide for the community. So she would go through the TV guide a week in advance, pick a slate of programs, and put stars next to it that you might find interesting. So I heard somebody mention AI today, and I'm thinking, well, maybe we can use AI, filter through all this, come up with a device that could be set up in front of your TV so that you could find things for your family to watch in time to watch. That's one idea.
No. Excellent.
I just want to interrupt a bit, if we can identify the original cable programs that are circulating.
They're right here.
Oh.
They made it all the way around.
They're precious. Yes, sir.
Did you look at it?
Okay. We're ready to do that. So we're getting ready to close out. Oh. Okay. Oh, one last question.
Big plan.
Oh, yeah. Good afternoon,
Okay. So one last question for Barry.
Yes, I would say for Mr. Berry, Mr. Washington, as well as for everyone in the room, I'm a Newark native as well. I was born and raised in Newark, Southwood, Main Street projects. My professional job, I currently work with the City of East Orange, Mayor's Office of Employment and Training, and I work with youth as well as the community as a whole, as it relates to employment and training and bringing training opportunities to the city. So after listening to everyone and all the valuable information, knowing your history, it is mind-blowing as the other one. My question, because I'm constantly thinking of ways to connect, right? We're talking about the youth needing to know this information and the legacy. So my question to you, as well as to everyone who hosts these type of events, is it open to youth? Are you having youth in the room? Because just from my being in the City of East Orange, working with employment and training and being over the summer program, I place all of our youth. So this year I'm charged with 600. I'm surprised I'm even out today because I'm generally at home placing each individual child where they're going to be going. Now, since my tenure at East Orange, we went from COVID to them being in office and different work sites to virtual, then hybrid. Now we have a huge entrepreneur arm. I have over 150, 200 youth entrepreneurs. At the end of the summer, we have a huge, what we call a sweat fest, where we feature all the entrepreneurs and their businesses and what they've been doing over the summer. And each year, it's just growing and growing and growing and growing. Now, these are for East Orange, but we also have one of our vendors work in Newark as well. So there's another huge arm of youth entrepreneurs who not only need mentorship, okay, need to know the backstory of what your whole journey is how they get there. They see the end result, but they don't see the journey. They don't understand that what they're doing and what they're experiencing and everything here, as Don said, is divine. My being here was divine, was a mistake. Everyone in this room is divine, so it was a mistake. But they don't know how today connects them to tomorrow. And what they learned yesterday brought them to this moment and projects them for the future.
So them hearing stories like this and understanding that what they're doing in the summer, what they're doing in those workshops, those 10 weeks, 6 weeks, leads them up to you. They don't understand any of that. So when we are having these workshops, these sessions, these networking events, we have to bring the youth for them to hear, and then they will understand, and then they will know the importance of learning history, because they have all these living legends and all these people, these rich histories, who just look like normal folk because they're not on TV flossing and, driving all these cars. They're missing it, but they're not hearing it. And it's not being shared. We're speaking to the choir and then saying how what's missing. The missing part is bringing them in the room. You have to bring them in the room. So my question here is, I have an audience of 600. I had 1,200 applicants. 1,200 applicants. I had to turn away 750. Okay, because we can't hire everybody. All right. However, I have 600. I'm willing to open up the floor and the floor for you to come and speak to them. Share the stories. Not everybody, because some of them are placed at work sites, but we have our entrepreneur enrichment piece, where I'm going to be placing over 300 in that arm, period. So you have an audience where you can come in, share a story, get them to understand why the entrepreneurship why is important, what they're doing is important, where is going to take them. They need to hear that from you because they'll understand it. But they'll never know who's in the room because you look at the room and it's like, oh, no, it is possible. But we have to bring them in the room so they can hear the stories. So at your next networking event, I can call Dr. Jamila. I can tap into my kids, our kids, and they need to be at that event. Like the kids have to be, you can have 25, 50 at your events.
We'll make it happen.
Make it interactive, make it challenging, because they don't like to be talked at, we all know. Okay, but we have to bring them in the room. So I guess that's the most important thing I can tell. Thank you. I don't know if that was a question or a statement or all wrapped in one.
It's all good.
I have a question.
All right.
Hello, Barry. This is Paul Dennison.
Hey, Paul.
Jersey City.
Hey.
Very impressed and thankful for all the work that you put in. My question was, and I don't know if it was asked because it was a transmission error. Out of lessons learned over the years, what are the 3 key elements that you think are critical that you'd like to impart us with? And then to build on some of the other comments, what are the challenges that we need to overcome to address the digital divide that still exists, and also get engage the youth, as part of the conversation, because you need to hand the baton off to folks to take on to continue the work.
Almost let you repeat the question. But I think that taking advantage of the resources that are available. When you say available, what exactly does that mean? I'm not sure, but I realize that the public library is probably one of the most underutilized institutions that is still being funded. And if we don't encourage people to use it, it will go away. And for instance, the mobile phone is so much more than a phone. I mean, I started to bring my laptop, but I bought my iPhone, which is really more powerful than my laptop in many ways. But you have the divide between the Android world and the iPhone. Now, some of my more technical friends don't like Apple because they're so dominant. They control their environment. But that is the very reason businesses, 99% of them only use iPhone. The thing that I like as a senior citizen, Apple has something called Apple. And if you really want to learn how to use the iPhone as the supercomputer that it has become, you need to go to Apple Store. I believe the federal government and Google should create an Android school with the public library. This is something that I want to work on personally, so that the Android phone becomes as useful as an iPhone to our people. Because if you go in front of the welfare office, they give away free phones. And they happen to call them, in the industry, they call them Obama phones, because Obama, his administration realized that there is no more public phone. You have to have an iPhone in order to communicate. But the Android phone is almost as powerful as an iPhone, but there's no Android school. So that's one thing that I said. This has been on my spirit for a while, to get the library system involved with the government and Google to create the ability to have everyone use that little simple Android phone. Is almost as powerful as an iPhone, and in the right hand, it's more powerful if you know what you're doing. So that's one thing. And again, it's volunteering to help people for the sake of doing that, because you never know how that's going to come back to bless you. That's pretty much it. I mean, that's really all I have to say about an experience like today. I mean, I'm so glad I was, that Don had me come and relive this experience, because, my memory is insufficient to realize how much it meant to me, and how much we meant to this town. And I'm glad to have had this opportunity. Yeah, thank you.
I'd like to thank everyone here live and in attendance, and all of you online for making this a wonderful success. We'd like to thank Newark Broadcasting TV, who will be televising the event. Big thank you goes out to Pillar College. We have brochures, keychains. Please help yourself to them. We'd like to thank everyone who provided refreshments. We still have refreshments. Grab them on your way out. I'd like to thank Doreen Bethia online for fielding the questions and making everyone at home online. Let's see. Our next event is September 21st. And one thing I'm taking away from today's discussion is life is about relationships. It's about connections. So while we're here together, before you leave, connect with somebody that you don't know, because you never know where that's going to lead. And at this time, I would like to call Don forward to close us out.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm grateful for the opportunity to even introduce myself in the presence of this pioneer and so many other people whose shoulders I literally stand on. I am a first generation Haitian and Lebanese American, native to what I call urban Essex County. I lived in almost all of the ex-burbs. I currently live in Newark. And I'm proud to be able to be in this room and have my son present with me, because I often tell people I'm from the 1900s. I remember when I used to have to get up and turn the channel.
All right. All right.
I remember when the button broke and we used the pliers to turn the channels. I remember the rabbit ears, and I remember when my friends got cable television. That part. I remember being thrilled in my generation when there weren't a television everywhere in everybody's room and pocket, that there was one main set that everyone gathered around to watch our shows.
Okay.
If you know what I mean. And so I remember when the cable box was like this big, had a cord as long as I don't know what connected to it. So now you finally could move back a little bit and then push the buttons down, and then the buttons would get stuck sometimes. So I like to just take a moment to take us back to that, because as young as I look, but there's still those of us that will never know that experience. We'll never know this man and the history of what we come from and how brilliant we truly are. So I thank you, Mr. Byatt, for making it possible for us to meet and greet you and everyone that thought it's important enough to be here today. So may we continue to remember how far we've come, and just know that information in this age and in this state is available, and there were people who determined that we could benefit, and we were afforded it because of people like you. So God bless you and your legacy.
My friends, this brings us to the end, and we just heard our final words from Judge Sybil Elias. It's also mentee and calls upon me when necessary. It informs me on what I need to be informed of. So I'm grateful to each and every one of you online. And thank you to Doreen for holding it down and coordinating it. Our next one is September 21st. So mark that down. Location and details will be forthcoming. Barry, this has been a journey. This is but one stop along the way. We will continue the journey together as long as we have breath, for which we are privileged. Thank you all. Thank you.